All right, guys, thanks for tuning in to another video. We got the highly requested Bow Shop Bruce here. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely.
My pleasure.
So, first thing, I'm going to tell a little story and ask Bruce a question here. So, when I was a little kid, I've been coming to the shop since like what? Oh, when did you start owning it?
I've had it for 15 years. I've had it since the end of 03, beginning of 04.
So end of 03 is probably when we first met. And the way my parents raised me was like I had to earn everything I had. So I bought my first car, bought my bows, all my own stuff. Was doing work, saving for them, buying stuff. Now, in 03, I've been doing archery so long, and you have two, that there wasn't rangefinders really. And if so, they weren't good ones,
right,
you know.
Right.
And then when laser rangefinders did start coming out and they were decent, they were really pricey. So me as a little kid, my dad had a rangefinder. I couldn't get one because they were expensive. So we would just guess yardage out hunting. That was just normal back then. And then one day I stumbled into the shop, and this guy right here gave me a rangefinder, which like I still remember to this day. I used that rangefinder for like 10 years. My dad used it one time and broke it. So I sent it to Bushnell. They gave me another one for a good price on a warranty. So I still to this day basically use the same rangefinder. So thanks for that, first of all.
I totally forgot about that.
So thanks for that. This guy gave me a rangefinder. Next up, I got this release, which has a story behind it. A lot of people know I shoot this guy.
This is like this guy's binky.
Yes, I can't get rid of it. People always ask me what release I shoot. It's the Carter 4, it's called now, from Carter. And anyways, Jim lent me this about 15 years ago.
Right.
And I still haven't given it back yet, but maybe I will soon. So with those two stories, I want to, first of all, thank you guys for supporting youth archers, which I think is really cool. And I want to ask what drives you to support youth hunters and archers like that?
You know, that's a no-brainer, man. That's the future of our sport, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, growing up in Idaho, everything was outdoors. I mean, I did not want to come home. What I see now in kids, they want to go home, they want to play video games. So when I see a kid, great story, I've got another kid that comes in here, Hunter Conway. You guys just, it inspires me. It's like, geez, oh, peak, man. I mean, you were shooting a PSE Spider. I'll never remember,
right.
I'll never forget it, dude. And you were maybe this big. And I'm like, there's little kids pulling stuff out, cracking shots, and I'm going to go kill a javelin. I'm like, all right, man. I mean, that's what drives me. I want my passion archery. I want it to grow, and I want it to grow in someone's hands. And now I look at you, man, and you're just out smoking some killer animals. I mean, from elk to deer to pigs to you name it, turkey. And so it worked, right? I mean, right now you're addicted, just like I'm addicted, just like every archer out there. I mean, it's an addictive sport. So to answer your question, long story short, it's the future of our sport. I want to see kids out being athletic, having fun, shooting a bow and arrow, enjoying family time. I mean, how awesome is that? You and your dad.
Yeah.
I see you guys hunting. I see you guys doing 3D shoots.
Oh.
Right? That's what it's all about, man.
For sure.
Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
Totally. So yeah, I think that's one of my favorite attributes of the shop too. But I also, with that being said, what made you want to own a bow shop also? Like, how did you come from Idaho to being here in California owning a bow shop?
You know, that was my actually biggest fear was taking over this shop, making it what it is now. I was really, really concerned. And me and my wife, Renee, you know, thank God for her. She's like, you're going to do this. If you're young enough, or if you fall on your face, you can go back to framing. So for me, I was very nervous about buying into my passion. I didn't want to burn out on the passion of archery. I mean, when you live it, breathe it, eat it, as what you do 365 days a year, it's worrisome, right? I mean, you could burn out, and I love archery. So I used to be in the framing world, the blueprints, and the guy that owned this shop prior was a real small shop. I'm sure you came in when it, ran this way, and he had 5 or 6 bows in stock. I just wanted to kind of take over and offer something different to the town of San Diego. You know, for me, I always grew up, just like what you got right there, a rangefinder, a handshake deal, customer service is my goal, and I wanted to provide that to San Diego.
Makes sense.
So
I mean,
that's why I wanted to take it over, man.
That's crazy. I mean, and the shop's like scaled so much, it's like pretty crazy to see. It's like rare to come in here and have it empty. Anyone who's been here knows that. But Well, now that this is kind of like an interesting like just topic we could chat about, but like when the Hunger Games movies came out,
13. Insane.
did you just see a crazy spike in sales? Because I felt like around that time, it was just like everybody was running to get a bow.
Right.
So like, did you notice that? And like, how long did that last before it kind of tailed off?
It was about a year and a half. You know, recurve sales out of
Yeah.
control. Compounds. I mean, we still did our average compound sales, right? Because you're always going to have that guy say, I want to shoot, you know, a target bow, or I want to shoot a hunting bow. But recurve sales, the industry, hands down, just they couldn't keep up. Couldn't keep up with wood arrows. Couldn't keep up with recurve bows. That was a big deal. And for us, it was the biggest year we'd ever had in 13. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah.
Now, we blew it up last year. It was our biggest year we've ever had.
Awesome.
So it's good to see the progression. Right now,
Awesome.
I'm blown out at the seams, man. I need a bigger shot, but it's, I just, anyhow, that's a story for another time.
We're working on that.
Hunger
I do
Games,
real
Hunger
estate,
Games.
so we're working on getting that shot.
Find me something.
But yeah, that Hunger Games rush was crazy. I do recall that, and just like seeing more and more people in the sport. I wonder how many, like my dad and I were talking about. I wonder how many of those people like still shoot, because like you said, it is addictive. Or if like they just bought a bow and then next thing you know we're out of it.
Or is it a
Do
fad
a lot of
kind of
those people come back?
I do. I see a lot of them, you know, they might get the wood arrows to start with, right? And then they like, man, I want to progress. So they'll come down and get some carbon fiber arrows. Oh, maybe I want a heavier pound limbs, or maybe I want this or this. And some of them, what's kind of cool about our sport is I'm seeing a lot of crossover, right? So kind of to peg on and off your question, I'm seeing a lot of guys that shoot recurve are coming in and saying, hey, you know what, I want to try a compound bow. And I'm seeing in the same breath, a lot of guys that are shooting compounds are coming in and saying, hey man, I want to try this traditional archery game. I shoot both. I like the compound thing for the longer range, the accuracy, you know, blah, blah, blah. Whereas some guys are like, yeah, you know, that's cool to be able to hold a softball sized group at 80 or 70 or whatever it might be. Man, I wonder what I can do at 30 yards with the recurve. And believe me, it's a big deal. I look like a superstar at 15. I go back to 20, I'm like, what happened with my recurve, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Jim Velasquez just murders it with a recurve. So
it's crazy how much the distance plays a factor with the traditional. But that's where I started, was shooting traditional. And you know, speaking on passion and like doing something you're passionate about, it's crazy because you said you didn't want to get burnt out. That was a fear of yours. And it's interesting because before I did real estate and started filming hunting, I've always filmed content, but it used to be bike riding. So I was a pro bike rider for like 3 or 4 years.
Insane.
If you guys don't know that,
Insane.
yeah. Maybe I'll put a bike video in the description or something. But anyway, so I used to ride bikes, and same thing happened. I eventually just hated riding bikes. I didn't want to ride bikes anymore. And hunting was always like, hunting and archery were always like the main things I would go back to. Those were always like my main passion ever since I was a little kid. So since I've always filmed stuff, I kind of wanted to film hunting stuff and make like content around hunting and archery to promote it to the younger kids, just like you said. Right. My worry was that I'd get burnt out and not like it anymore. So I'm only 6 months deep on this channel, so I'm like still in the beginning, and I'm hoping that doesn't happen.
It, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So my question is, you're 15 years deep on the shop. I'm 6 months. I'm not burnt out on filming yet. Have you burnt out at all?
I'd like to tell you I have, but I don't. I look forward to coming to this shop here. I like people, right?
Yeah.
So I like to interact, just like you. I like to interact with people. I go to shoot. I enjoy meeting, doing people, different clicks. I like to make someone an archer. So when you have a guy that hits you up on your shop Facebook or sends you an email and says, dude, look what I've just done at 40 or 50 yards. Man, dude, that's like a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So I like people. I like what I do. I just, don't get me wrong, there's always the business part of everything, right? It's a business, but no, I have not at all.
That's awesome.
I honestly still look up and I go, man, I am a lucky dude, right?
So
it's kind of like the old saying, find something you love and you'll never work another day in your life.
It's true, man. I mean, it is true. So, you know, obviously both you and I are archery hunters. I don't think you don't hunt with a gun ever, do you?
No, nothing against it.
Yeah,
right? Just like you, it's just I'm looking for the challenge or the high of hunting with a bow.
Exactly. Right. So when it comes to archery, I think we're pretty similar. It's like for me, I always say I'll do what it takes to be successful. So if that means sitting all day, dusk to dawn in a blind, I'll do it. My favorite spot and stock, and I pride myself on being very good at stalking. I think that and the ability to glass for a long time has been what's led to most of my success. Right. What would you say has led to most of your hunting success?
Kind of the same scenario, right? I mean, we all got to know the conditions. So, I'm going to just talk about local hunting. Laguna Mountain's a great example because there's a lot of bow hunters in there. Conditions. I mean, there's no sense in you even beginning to start 2-1 a spot in stock if there's no wind. It sounds like Rice Krispies when you're walking. You're not going to get away with it. So,
and you can't glass because there's trees every
right, exactly.
yards,
So for me, I build a lot of ground blinds. I hang tree stands. Homework. Travis, you did an interview with Trav. He's just like a little freak like me. Likes to just get up, hike your butt off preseason, do your homework, look for funnels, look for pinch points, look for travel routes, food sources at certain times of the year. I mean, that's a grand question, but for me, it's conditions. I passed up a lot of deer last year, and for me, it's just being in the woods. It's not about harvesting. So to pull back on an immature 3-point and have them at chump change yardage and let down, that's just as good as putting an arrow in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you don't have all the work afterwards.
Yeah.
But for me, it's hunting properly. Playing the conditions. If it's windy or rainy, yeah, I'm gonna get up and move and groove. I'm like you. I love this spot and stock.
Mm-hmm.
But patience, right? I mean, if you had to boil it down, it'd be patience and smart hunting.
Of course. And I always kind of break hunting into phases too. Like I always kind of say that new guys tend to be in what I call the hiking phase. They just like to hike and hike and hike. And it works. Like you'll see animals, but with a bow, you're not going to get close enough to make an effective shot. And then as you become more seasoned, I find you spend more time sitting, whether that's sitting behind binoculars or sitting in a blind or whatever. So I think hunting kind of changes, of course, with experience like anything. But
Oh, you're right. I mean, Arizona, you can cover 10, 15, 20-mile days. But if you let your glass do the walk for you, man, right. Absolutely.
And not only that, but when you're seeing stuff with your glasses, they don't know you're there. When you bump them walking, you're already at a big disadvantage because you've already been seen or heard or smelled. When you're up on a hill, you got the advantage. You got all day to plan.
Yeah, you're dealing with a deer that's on level 2. It's like stages right up. Exactly. Don't do there level 1, level 2.
Exactly.
You're no good. Give up.
Yeah, that's the thing. Man, that's so cool about archery though, is how hard it is. And like you said, I mean, I'm the same. I passed so many local bucks this year, but I just have at this point, and when 10 years ago I would have shot a doe or with a 22 and been pumped. Now I don't need meat. My freezer is stacked. It's more about harvesting like a mature animal that kind of fits the bill we're looking for. When did that shift happen for you, when you kind of were more selective, and then more so rather than success just wanted to be out in the field?
I'd probably tell you anywhere from 5 to 8. That's real hard. 5 to 8 years. I mean, even now, something me and you talked about, and you're going to probably have people going, oh, come on, dude. But I don't know about you, but where I hunted local public property, there was a lot of does. So now I'm kind of starting to think a different route of maybe first season I fill one of my tags on a doe. I think our buck to doe ratio is out of control.
Yeah.
And I like our local deer. And I know you love them, right?
Yeah,
they're
of course,
killer.
Of course.
So I'm almost thinking about picking a dry doe out and harvesting a doe just to cull the herd and manage a little bit. But now, it's like Arizona, me and you compare stories because we're not really close, but not together, but close. What do you see? What did I see? What was your average buck? Blah, blah, blah. So I wouldn't consider ourselves horn hunters, right? We're just kind of going for that right buck.
The way I describe it when people ask, like, what type of hunter am I at this point? I say, at the end of the day, it is about meat for me, especially when I'm out of state. The last day, if I need to fill my tag, I will shoot a tiny buck. Just that's legal. But in front of that, I want to get a bruiser buck. And It's not so. I am pursuing large antlers, but that's not what it's about for me. It's about being out there every day, seeing things that I've never seen before, becoming a little bit better every time I'm in the field. To me, that's really big. It's like every time I'm out, I try to be super critical. Like, how could I have improved even a little bit? Even if things went perfect, I'm trying to think how it could have been better. So it is about meat and filling a tag at the end of the day, but I want to spend most of the time after 1 or 2 specific bucks. I love
your
that
hit
challenge.
list, right? So you start the week or 2 weeks and 3 weeks. Where I got to go 2 weeks. What did you hunt this year in Arizona? 3 weeks?
2.5 weeks.
And a killer. So we all have that hit list, right?
Yeah.
I had a hit list of 3 bucks, and it boiled down to 1, and
Yeah.
the impossible deer. But I gave it hell chasing them, right?
Yeah.
So that's for me. That was a great hunt.
Yeah. So, what is maybe one time you were super close to a big buck or a big bull, and either you missed or something happened and blew it last minute? What's like one of your hunting like heartbreakers that you've come across?
There was two, and one was this year, January in Arizona, on the buck that I told you the whole story about. There's been two. There's that buck, probably a 200-inch mainframe buck, kind of in that same country, about 3 or 4 miles away. Man, I hate to tell that story because it's kind of a heartbreaker. It's an intimate thing. I stalked in 30. I'll tell you that one. It's 32 or 30 yards from it, right? And bedded down, had him cleared. He's looking the other way, and I'm just like, I'm going to sit here on my knees and I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. And there was 2 does in this little crease that I did not pick up on. My wind was cutting him good. Does picked it up and came up like a typical doe, right? Come out, stomp their foot, they're blowing. They don't know where I'm at because I'm on my knees and I have an arrow. I'm just sitting there, cramping up, of course. Finally, the buck stands up, so I just go to full draw, right? And you see
Right
that
away,
buck
of
come
course.
up, man, just go to draw.
Mhm.
And he had just enough quarter and away angle. I thought, man, I can lace that right behind that last rib and just send it up in him at 30 yards, right? So I settle the pin, I shoot. Well, I don't know if he heard the shot, if he just turned at the right time. Well, when a deer turns his head, he's going to throw his hip out, and I just in and out on his butt cheek or his rear quarter, if you will, ham. And he was fine. I chased him for 4 more days. But my regret out of that, kind of like what you were saying, what do you learn about a hunt? My regret out of that was maybe I should have waited because he was looking around, but looking around away from me. So maybe I should have waited for a little bit more quarter. You know, you can play that scenario 100 times, right? Until you're the heat of the battle, the sun's pounding on you, you're cramping up in your legs, and it's go time. So that's one of my biggest regrets.
You know what's crazy is like, and it's like being 2 experienced hunters who punched a lot of tags with the bow. It's crazy because I did the exact same thing this year. I shot a buck I had him at Stockton, beautiful stock, same thing, right in. I'm looking for the buck, don't know where he's at. Pick about 54 yards, buck I was after. Does behind me start sneezing. I didn't even know they were there, same sort of thing. I'm waiting, he stands up, perfect broadside draw, felt good. Shot, and I thought I missed, you know. Sure enough, same thing, just right through the very top of the back, slice the top of his back, little meat on the broadhead. And I ended up putting him down like 3 or 4 days later. But it goes to show, even with experience, and like we're both pretty good shooters, stuff happens. It just does happen. My shot was not even a hard shot. I think what happened, I might have been like 2 yards off on yardage. And then I'm sure he dropped a little, and that must have just lost me that.
Give you 8 or 10, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You know, that's all it takes. And just like you said, they turn fast. So
You wouldn't think it, right? At that yardage, as
Yeah.
fast as our bows
No.
are, it's like, man, are you kidding me right now?
Well, I told the story with Trav. I don't know if you heard or not, but in New Mexico, I shot at a buck 30 yards, and he literally went chest to the ground, smacked his chest on the ground, got up, ran away, and no clue I was there. That's how fast they are.
$6 million deer.
That's how fast they are.
That just blows
You know,
me away.
They're
Right.
so quick.
Right.
But, you know, as hunters, I think the important thing is like we just limit how, like that will happen. You know, we are going to occasionally make a bad shot, clip something. But, you know, all we can try to do is limit it. Still going to happen, unfortunately. It's just the truth.
And learn from it, right?
And learn from it, of course. You know, it goes to show if experienced guys can do it, new guys, like you're liable to make that sort of mistake. So you can't let it be discouraging. You just got to learn from it.
That's what I try to tell guys. You're bow hunting. It's not put a crosshair on at 200-300 yards. Doesn't know you're there. Squeeze. Everything's fine. I mean, a guy that I like watching, Western hunter Nate Simmons. Great story. Great hunter. I like that he shows his misses. You know, or he'll show a hit and the animal's fine or whatever. But it's kind of the same thing. You know, he sits back at camp and reflects on it. You know, man, what would I have done different? You know, we play that scenario, right, 100 times in our head every time we go back to camp. It's like, man, what should have I done, or what could I have done, or man, if you make that hit that you're not sure about, you're like, man, you're dissecting your arrow. It keeps you up at night, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all owe it to the animal to practice. You know, nothing perturbs me more than the guy that comes in and says, I started shooting my bow 3 days before season. I mean, you owe the animal a little bit more than that.
Well, I mean, I think like you got to be responsible for every arrow that leaves your bow. You know, so the preparation has to be there. You got to feel locked in, and you know, we've talked about it before. And another thing is like shoot within your effective range. Super important to me. And I think that nowadays with slider sights becoming so popular, it's just like everyone's tempted because they want to fill a tag so bad, especially newer guys. They really want to fill a tag. They'll take that risk of hucking a long shot. And that's when you're really putting the animal's well-being like way out of line, I think.
Conditions, your shootability.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
You know.
Reaction.
Yeah.
The slider sights, I love them. I shoot a slider. You shoot a slider. One, two. There's two bows up there.
Yeah.
Target bow, I get a slider, but Kate's bow, that's a slider sight. She's more of a target shooter, but the reason I shoot a slider, I know my effective range. You know your effective range, but let's say at 40 yards, I hit a limb I didn't see. Obviously, now you've got a gut shot. You've got a deer. You're going to be able to track up on him. He's going to probably be humped up. I still practice out there. Mine I can slide out to 150 yards. Am I going to shoot cold form on an animal? No.
Yeah.
But I want to know 140 yards, he's gut shot and humped up.
You can relate.
I know I'm good that I'm going to hold it in that paper plate for a vital hit.
Yeah,
two holes better than one scenario. But
totally.
I practice it for that scenario. I won't do a cold form just like I know you won't do a cold form.